Hello. Felt a need to film a quick update because despite my calm external appearance, I'm quite fucking livid, and it's just mind-blowing to me how this world around me is informed of so much, but expresses so little. And it's such a meaningless, tiring thing to go through life without any kind of enlightenment whenever we all know so much and can do so little, seemingly do so little. It's a sign of the times and a sign of weakness and a sign of vulnerability. This world that we live in is basically held together with staples, is what I keep sensing more and more, is that what we're enduring is a facade, it's an illusion, all designed to make us think that it's normal, when it's not. It's simply not. The human condition has changed, socialization, period, has changed. Nothing is the same. We're dealing with pale comparisons and a pale representation of what life used to be. Think about this for a minute. Think about 5 years ago, just 5 years ago. Were you happier then? Odds are that you were happier for many reasons, but the American way is just to compartmentalize, sweep it under the rug, and pretend like it doesn't bother you. That's toxic, and due to the levels of influencing and manipulation that are occurring, the power of suggestion has brought people towards a dark path away from the light. So I think it's time to go ahead and recognize that. It's a simple thing to bring up the parallels between this time period and time periods thousands of years ago that have went through the same type of cycle. The same type of evil influence was present on the earth at that point. We have so much history to point to. We have so many things we could look at that could make us think differently, but yet they don't. We are just all playing along with each other poorly, and we're all scared to admit how pissed off and depressed we really are. That's a shame. I understand that you narcissistic people will weaponize your feelings and words against you, but never stop trying to reach somebody who may agree, who may show solidarity, who may actually make you feel better. Because if you're anything like me, it's almost comical. Like, when I look at my environment, I think these are all things that are orchestrated to piss me off, to slow me down, to keep me stuck, and to never have me feeling any hope for the future. The perpetrators and the orchestrators of our misery, they seem to want us alive and miserable. If we go away too loudly, that creates a problem for them. They want us alive, miserable, as cogs in the machine, with no personality, that conforms to a system that we don't believe in, that we're forced to endure because of everybody else. So that's a fucking problem for me. That is something that I see that other people aren't even sensing or feeling. They are dialed into the matrix. They are static. They don't really think for themselves. Most people simply don't ever think for themselves, and they are susceptible to manipulation quite easily, especially when a certain level of wear down is taking place. That's where we get the mind-controlled automaton phenomenon, or the NPC phenomenon, or as I call it sometimes, the zombie phenomenon that's occurring around me. Everything's functioning just enough to prevent it from sliding off so we don't all freak out. It's a slow, sustained de-escalation of the world that's taking place that, quite simply, the negative, detrimental part of it can't be stopped. It's just not being acknowledged. People are getting run into the ground, and then it's the end of them, is what I keep sensing heavily. My intuition is quite high, and I pick up on things that most people do not. I see beyond the surface quite easily, and always have since I was a child. I mean, just to give a little bit of a backstory, my awakening began several years ago, almost. I was going through a detrimental time period. The people in my life were giving me nothing but problems and blaming me for the harm that they were committing on me. The toxic narcissism in my life got driven to the extreme, and I'll be honest, I was feeling quite suicidal. I didn't want to be here on this planet Earth. I was thinking of creative ways for me to prematurely exit, and I reached to Jesus Christ. And I thought, I need some kind of guidance in this. I don't really want to leave, but I can't be here in this current condition. So I had a heart-to-heart with myself. I cried for many hours, and I fell into a deep sleep for like 8 or 9 hours. And woke up, and for lack of a better term, I just felt different. Beyond that point, I started noticing things more, synchronicities, patterns. My frequency has certainly risen during this time period, quite dramatically, I believe. If you believe in that sort of thing or notice auras and things like that, my frequency has risen, and I've become a very spiritual person who tunes out all of the negativity and bullshit, because it's just designed to wear me down and to bring me down to those depths that these cretins and these fucking heathens have reached themselves. Misery loves company, and I keep the company of nobody right now. I'm an army of one that's just going to keep existing in this fashion until something different occurs. And perhaps it never does. I don't know. I'm winging it every day that I live is me winging it. And just trying to make it to the next day in hopes that maybe somebody can see what I'm saying and be able to agree with my points. Because there's such high levels of manipulation in the world. They don't even want people to agree, especially if they are good-hearted people that would benefit from each other's presence. They certainly don't want that type of thing to happen at all. So keep that in mind. But you know, the indiscriminate nature of people's awakenings, it's ensuring a lack of solidarity, and that we're arm's length apart whenever some real world problems present themselves and really test our character and intestinal fortitude. So keep that in mind. The enemy wants you far apart. They don't want you to ever be closer to agree. They want there to be discord that you never speak of that contributes to your mental well-being suffering. And that's really what encourages this cycle of toxic trauma guilt cycle. That's really what it does. So anyway, the desired outcome that they're wanting for people like me, sentient people, is to be isolated, depressed, and without any type of support network that's beneficial to you. They want you in a weird trauma bond with people that don't really care about you, that don't love you, that ultimately will throw you under the bus if it comes down to it. They don't want you to ever feel peace or comfort from anybody that you're around. They want you to play along with their false reality to the point where it just becomes ingrained in you, and it's your normal reality, it's the false reality. I refuse to. I live on the fringes of this prison planet, doing what I do, hoping that I can reach somebody in my environment, but it seems as if my environment here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, is dramatically lessening. But all of this is orchestrated in hopes that our will to fight subsides and we don't do anything that we want to do. They are literally controlling our lives in such an imperceptible way that stupid people and people not in the know just will never, ever realize it. Like, they realize that they aren't creative thinkers. They're just going to roll along with it. And that's the problem. That's what's going to cause the downfall of our society, pretty much, is people going along with it. If you can't stand up for anything, then you'll fall for anything. And I have not fallen for this shit. I do not sip on the Kool-Aid. I admonish everything that's happening, and I really want the world to humble. Like, I can't wait for something extremely humbling to happen to the world, to wake everybody up, to see where they failed each other in society. That's the big thing. But keep in mind, if you're motivated like me and you are getting the word out, just naturally expect that there will be a mum response, or maybe no response, or even a detrimental response that's designed to gaslight you. The way I look at it, you know, when I think to time periods that existed before now, when Jesus Christ himself was getting the fucking word out, I'm sure he was heavily discouraged. I'm sure he was gaslighted and he was persecuted for his beliefs, because he was a sentient being on this planet as well, who had a divine purpose. And he knew why he was doing what he was doing. Other people didn't always catch on, and they always had a vested interest in denying him, because he was a light worker, and many people of his time period were doing the work of the devil as well. There was always a cover-up, smokescreen. It's crazy the parallels between that time period thousands of years ago and this time period. We just have technology now, which is aiding in ways to suppress people and hold them back. So that's pretty much what we're dealing with. History repeats itself, and life is a circle that will loop back around at some point. But ultimately, don't think that you're not reaching people deep down, because you very well could be. It's just the world, we're living through a weird grip of suppression and censorship that is just confusing to me. It's so obvious, but it's not going to be obvious to everybody, if you know what I mean by that. But the way of the universe as it stands dictates that we do not receive an abundance of validation for things that we believe in, and you know, the enemy will seek to demotivate and discourage us by working through those closest to us. Like, I firmly believe that the influencing that's happening on this planet Earth is quite evil, and it's subtle. It gets into people and it changes them before they even stop to think about it. They're not self-aware. They don't consider their actions or how they harm people. They just roll with whatever they need to, because they're narcissistic people who have been worn down to become sociopaths. And the pre-existing sociopaths on this planet have been worn down to become psychopaths. There is a lot of toxic, malignant narcissism going on this planet, and it just doesn't compute to me how people couldn't see a need to speak about it by now. But I guess it hasn't gotten real enough for them. I seem to think that the world's going to become more real and tangible in terms of the detriment and the harm that this is causing to people's minds. Because when a mind is harmed and the formula for what makes up a human being changes, that's when things get weird. I believe that this simulation of life, as I call it, is going to resume. It's almost as if the pause button has been hit and all the pieces moved around, so when the play button hits, we're all discombobulated and nothing makes any sense to anybody. But essentially, many people are just living a lie, and they're well aware of it, and they possess no recourse because they're stuck and heavily manipulated, and they're encouraged by their past to never branch out or do anything different. I call bullshit on that. I'd say live while you can, but then again, I don't think like everybody does. So a common theme, though, is that we're all struggling in ways that we can't even present to one another, but we perceive. So that's another thing to remember that's quite important. But anyway, keep doing your thing. Peace.